Time now for our Pix Panel. Joining me today, Pix political reporter Ayana and executive editor for the Gotham Gazette, Ben Max. Thank you both for being here. Whew. We made it, right?
Yes. What a week.
What a week. Governor Hochul, let's talk about this first. Elected to a full term, but this was a very close race. We talked about this going into it, right? Ayana, you've been following the campaign, so have you been. Was Hochul's team confident, Ayana, going into election night? It was very, very boots on the ground in the last couple of weeks.
It certainly didn't feel like they were very confident going into election night. In fact, being inside that room, I could tell you early on, there was really some concern that I heard from people. You could feel it in the air once the returns began to come in. Then the mood did lighten up and it got more celebratory. And of course, later in the evening, the governor was able to, declare her victory. But I'll say we certainly saw the campaign seem to scramble, especially in the last few weeks, right? Typically, we see Democratic candidates going out to churches, to subway stations, to senior centers. We really didn't see that happen with the Hochul campaign until the last 2 to 3 weeks. And I think even bringing in big names like Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, that goes to show just how much trouble the Hochul campaign thought they might be in, that they needed to bring in the heavyweights.
Right. So Ben, you talked about that, right? The Rose Garden strategy that was really most of the campaign kind of changing in the latter weeks. Looking now to a full term, the concerns of voters when it comes to crime, especially those are still there. And that was what the Republicans really hit her on, was crime, crime, crime. Will this impact her plans moving forward? What is going to happen to bail reform come January?
Well, listen, I think the Hochul team is probably going to reevaluate a lot, considering she won a 6-point race roughly when the last few races were by well over double digits. So there's a lot to reevaluate in terms of how New Yorkers are thinking about their governor. Now, she gets a full term. She's barely been in office a little over a year, so she's got some room to breathe here. She doesn't have to immediately take action on anything.
Yeah.
And I think her stance on what's going to happen with bail reform and other measures related to public safety is, we've put a lot in place. We did change the bail law. Let's see implementation now. And I think that's absolutely the right strategy, is for her to really focus in on implementation. And the question of, this is maybe the number one question right now around bail reform, is, are the changes they made in April that went into effect in May actually being implemented? Because they made the law tougher around repeat offenders and a number of other things, and there's real questions about whether that's being followed. So she needs to stay on top of that. And then she also needs to now get her whole new agenda together, her state of the state agenda, her budget agenda, and there'll be a lot of question marks.
Well, yeah, and we had DA Alvin Bragg on. His name was dragged through the mud during the campaign by Lee Zeldin, saying he'd be fired. And Alvin Bragg said, look, let's look at the data moving forward before looking at changing bail reform. So, we talked about this red wave on Long Island as well. Ayana, you noticed there was a red wave in southern Brooklyn in particular, so what's happening there?
Absolutely. Several Republicans won competitive state legislature races in southern Brooklyn. Now, this isn't completely a surprise. We know southern Brooklyn is more conservative. Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis represents, in addition to Staten Island, parts of southern Brooklyn. But we're also hearing this conversation with people being very, very critical of the Brooklyn Democratic Party and its leadership. One candidate said they were basically MIA in terms of helping these candidates fight these competitive races. So this red wave in southern Brooklyn, in terms of Republicans picking up seats in the state legislature, it's really bringing up tough questions about who exactly is leading the Brooklyn Democratic Party, what is the strategy, and is it effective when it comes to getting Democrats elected in Brooklyn. So it's a conversation that's been happening for quite some time, but I think what happened Tuesday sort of highlights it once again.
I want to bring up Sean Patrick Maloney for a second, because he lost his race to Mike Lawler. And Sean Patrick Maloney came out early last week and said maybe it was Governor Kathy Hochul's fault. So, Ben, what do you make of that?
Well, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. The progressive wing of the party has hurt moderates, talk about southern Brooklyn, talk about the suburbs, in ways in terms of, talking about defunding the police and a socialist revolution and things like that. That hasn't been counteracted well enough by both the progressives and the moderates, and the lack of the party structure that Ayana was just talking about. So all of these things swirled in combination. Sean Patrick Maloney, who didn't run a very good race himself, he also ran a Rose Garden strategy till the end, is also right that Governor Hochul and her performance only winning by 6 points, which was mostly due to New York City and other cities around the state, was a drag on a number of congressional candidates and candidates for state legislative offices as well. So there's really not a lot of heroes on the Democratic side here, because it was a very disappointing election for Democrats in New York, with some bright spots for the party, like Pat Ryan keeping a congressional seat in the Hudson Valley, and some state Senate wins as well.
Got to leave it there, but I think there's going to be a whole remessaging and coming together on both sides and figuring out their strategy for 2024. Ben and Ayana, thank you for being here today. Everybody get some sleep, okay?
All right, you too.
We'll be right back, everybody.